Showtime! Good morning, Business Athlete Nation. Let's try this. There we go. Whoop, 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 whoop. Good morning, guys. Hey, it's Wednesday, July 31st. And you're on the morning show. I'm going to find myself. Thanks, Jimmy. There we go. Hey, what's going on, nation? Wednesday, July 31st on the morning show. Mornings in the lab with myself, Keith Bilous. Which camera should I look at right now? Let's do this one right here. Boom! There we go. Okay, listen, hey. Coming up in the lab, the Jon Andersen story. John's going to sit down with myself and Marty. We're going to dig into John's story. We're going to dig into, where the guy comes from, where he's all been, his wrestling career, bodybuilding career, pro lifting career. The guy's a beast. So we're going to talk Jon Andersen later this morning on the show as well. If we have some time, we're going to dig into inside the Business Athlete Performance Lab. So listen, if you're just tuning into the show right now and you are jumping into the show, I would invite you, nation. I would invite you to, I just need to find my other spot here. I would invite you to tune into our show every day. I would invite you also to subscribe to our channel. I would invite you to like our channel. I would invite you to share our channel with your friends. So as I move into the soft sounds of morning streaming content, get your ass out of bed. Yeah, there you go. No hit the snooze button. We wake up every single day to help you guys get your guys going. We are the accountability show, the number one show, the only show that wakes up on LinkedIn, wakes up on YouTube, wakes on X, wakes up everywhere to help you guys get moving. So that is why we exist. We exist to help you guys get rolling. And today is a day that we are excited to get into a full dialogue with, like I said, Jon Andersen. I got to get my camera sorted out here so you guys can perhaps see what I have to say today. So John's going to jump in here in a second. Marty's going to jump in here in a second. There's the two boys. There they are, Mr. Andersen, Mr. Fit. What's going on, boys?
What's going down this morning?
What's going on, fellas?
Hey, let's do this here. Let's welcome the guys to the lab.
You can't hear that. We couldn't hear that one.
You can't hear the applause?
Nah.
Oh, sorry to hear that. I don't know why that is. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you, but we couldn't hear the applause.
Oh, I got to switch.
Whatever button you're pushing, we don't hear it, brother.
Oh, man. Good morning, Enzo. Good morning from the future. I'm going to just change this up here. I'm going to do this, and I am going to do. Good morning, Enzo. Good morning, Sarvina. Always great to have our regulars show up here in the lab. Before we even walk into the lab, I saw Enzo, Marty. I saw Enzo, Johnny sitting in the lab at 7:46. Actually, 6:46. So he's been hanging out waiting for us patiently. I appreciate you joining us to the show this morning, Enzo. I saw your note on LinkedIn this morning. I appreciate that as well. Thank you so much. Like I said, guys, we're going to get into Jon Andersen's story today. Excited to have that conversation with Jon. We've sat down with Jon a couple of times, but today I suspect, Jon, you've dropped a couple of hints for the last couple of days. I think we're going to dig into some vulnerabilities with you today.
Those vulnerabilities is exactly what allowed me to be who I am today. So 100%. I'm looking forward to that, man. I know you dropped a couple of nuggets yesterday, and I wanted to be respectful of those nuggets. But I know you've had your journey, Andersen, and I know and Marty, there's humans tuning into the show right now, guys, girls, getting their day started. And perhaps they're looking in their own mirror right now, Jon, and they're maybe struggling with something that you were going through. So I invite you to continue with the show here if you're listening in. And there might be some things that Jon says that might spur you in a direction of positivity. Maybe it spurs you in a direction of change. I don't know. But I would invite you to continue listening in on the show when we get into Andersen's story, because we're all human. We all have our fallacies. We all put our pants on the same way. We all, for the most part, walk in the same direction. But from time to time, pardon my expression, but, things get off in the wrong direction for whatever reason that they are. And I know that today we're going to dig into that chat with Jon today. But good morning, everybody in the vertical stream. Good morning, disabled hand puppet. Yes, this is a live stream. And good morning, Uday. I appreciate you jumping in today into the show. And for those of you quickly tuning in, I invite you to subscribe to our channel. Mornings in the Lab here on YouTube. You can find us over on X, LinkedIn, Threads, all over the place. So
Let's get into it, boys. Marty, how was your day yesterday? What was going on after our show?
Went crazy on back day, man. Had a great workout. Got some potential clients off of the post that I made yesterday. So nice. I got some phone calls today.
Nice.
And that's about it, man. I made a video on Costco. You'll like it.
Oh, did you?
I went
really?
to Costco yesterday. Yeah, you'll like it.
Uday, what's the purpose of this live stream? This live stream is to help you get your day going. So I know that there's probably sometime in the future where you are, but our goal here in North America is to create this show to help you get moving, to help you be accountable, to help you achieve the biggest goals you may have in your life. That's why we get out of bed every single day on this show, is to help you move forward. So that's why we are here, Uday. And I'm happy that you're here to join us as well. Thank you for jumping into the show. Johnny, you had arms day yesterday. And I got to tell you, man, I was doing legs day yesterday and I was thinking about you. I'm doing these big lifts, Marty, and I'm just envisioning John in the mirror just doing these little arm curls because John's massive. I'm thinking to myself that I'm doing these big compound movements and there's this beast just a couple hours to the south of me standing in the mirror, like just flexing his biceps and his triceps. And I'm thinking, yes, that's it. Was that you, Andersen, yesterday?
That was me. You know, I try, even when I'm doing arm workouts, I still try to incorporate compound movements. Like I like dips, I like bench presses, things like this. Because here's the thing: for every step forward, every unit of effort we put forward, we want to get the maximum in return.
Yes.
And so, you know, isolation for different muscles, there's purpose for that, but I really am only going to isolate unless I'm kind of forced to. Like if I got to get another muscle, a supporting muscle can't take any heat, then I'm going to isolate. But I don't, generally speaking, I don't like to isolate. But you are correct. There's a work where I'm standing there with some light weights pumping it out.
That was just my vision, right? Because, you know, I know that you have been a very successful bodybuilder and a successful athlete. And I'm envisioning like there's me, you know, getting into the big grind of the big squat. And I'm thinking that's, there's a guy that I respect just down the road, picking up the old 25 pounder, just kind of squeezing his arm there. I'm sure it's more than 25, but because listen, all of us guys who like to hit the gym, arms day is one of those days where you're like, really, arms day? So, I like the fact that you incorporate the compounds into that movement because it's easy. It's easy to be lazy with arms day, isn't it? True.
Oh yeah.
100%. You know, in arms day for me is the reason that I have just an arms day is because it's a day where I can't put too much damage on myself. Oh. When you're doing arms, there's only so like you're doing legs, you can really put yourself. Easy for me to go too far back. Another one, easier for me to go too far. So. Like, perfect example, I'm going to stack a leg, arm, and a back. Like I'm going to do back today.
Yes.
Because yesterday, even though I was training, there's difficult to beat yourself down. Like you're really difficult to overdo your central nervous system doing arms. Yeah. Not very difficult to overdo your central nervous system when you're doing legs.
Yes. It's interesting you say that because it's when we do arms, like I said, it tends to be one of those just get it done and wrap it off. But when done properly, like you said, you know when you're doing arms, you're not going overboard. That's really what you're saying, right? It's
that's really what the concept of that workout is. It holds me back. If I don't do that, then I end up having, you know, I guess I hate to use the word overtrain, but to a certain extent, I can overtrain. I've been doing this so long. I can overtrain myself quite easily. So I know that I have to kind of thread the easier workouts in to keep myself where I can only damage myself so much in that 3-day period before I take a day off.
Yeah. No kidding. That's good advice, nation. You know, so, you know, Johnny, we know we got a lot of those, our audience, these 25, 28, 30-year-olds, 35-year-olds, you know, in those 40s, and they're all hitting the gym this morning, or they're thinking about hitting the gym this morning. It's just a new way to look. So, John, you do a split then. Eh? So, what if I could ask you? I know we're going to get into some conversation later today, but what's your routine, pal? Do you do a 5-day split, 3-day split? How do you split your stuff up?
So basically, I'm either gonna go 3 on 1 off or 2 on 1 off, and it goes completely how I feel. So, you know, a lot of times people say, what's your split? What muscles do you do on a certain day? And I'm never, ever going to have a set day for a certain muscle. You know, when the body knows every Wednesday you're doing legs, you know, It's a creature. It's much like your dog knows it's going to get fed every morning about a certain time.
Yes.
So one of the things that we want to do with training is make sure the body never figures out a pattern. So I go completely off of feel. So
yeah, you do, eh?
Yeah, 100%. So like when my legs feel like they can go again, perfect. But then a lot of times when I'm looking at is my lower back ready to go. So once I find that an area is ready to go, bam, I'm going to get it. Sometimes that period is longer because I went a little, I had a nasty one the week before, or maybe for some reason it's a little shorter because I just couldn't get in that zone. There's 1,000 things that can cause the timing to change. And when you try to just say, okay, I do this, you're leaving a lot of progress on the table. Now, keep in mind, if our bodies were machines, having a set day and all that would be perfect. We're creatures.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Marty, comments on that? I know you like to spend some time in lifting and talking with your clients. What's your perspective on Jon's POV on that?
No, that's new for me, man. I've actually never heard that. I'm a routine guy, so I do the same. I come from sports, so we got schedule, routine. So that's just what I'm accustomed to.
But Marty, me too. And there's a word here that I know I'm gonna f it up. I'm gonna try to spit it out. Jon, isn't it what is it, modulating or what's the word when you're changing something every in training and weightlifting? Is it modulating or amodulating? You know what I'm trying to say or not?
You know what? I try to keep things so simple, so I call it changing things. Let's not overcomplicate this thing for people.
I love that.
Yo, I thought Jon was about to hit us with some more education. Like, you know what I call it? This is the word I actually call it.
And I am giving you some the education to stop overcomplicating this drill.
That's true though, right? But it's funny because when something with modulating and the whole concept, Jon, is that, always changing your routine every 3 to 4 weeks to so Real Deal Prime is progressive overload. Yeah, I know Real Deal, but I think it's something to do with modulating in the athletic world. So, or in Jon's world, to keep it simple. But Jon, my point was just this idea of every 3 to 4 weeks changing your routine, so your muscles and your body is not getting used to the same thing, right?
And my thing is, why wait every 2 to 3 weeks?
I see. Okay.
Because that's very correct. There has to be a level of constant change. And I get it, like my clients, I'll change their program for them because going off the field, they got to get pretty advanced to do that. So what I'll do is I'll keep things rotating and then so they're never doing something. Week to week is always different, even rest days. And right. Then what I watch for is if they've done a little too much, I'll pull them off the fire, say you need to take a random rest day, which will let them catch back up. Those random rest days are powerful. People don't understand that
they are.
You don't grow in the gym. You break down in the gym. Yeah. You grow at home. You grow when you're sleeping. You grow at the dinner table. So that people lose sight of the fact that they want to beat themselves to death, and that's great. If you could beat yourself to death and recover, you're going to move much faster than everyone else. But the formula for recovery, most people are not going to have the stick-to-itiveness, if you will, to keep a massive recovery program going, because that's where there's more energy that goes to do a really, really good recovery program than there is training. So it's a balance.
Isn't that true, Jon? Because we as humans especially if we're wearing devices, we're all being encouraged to get up, get moving, do something, when in reality, when we rest and recover, that's when we grow. And I think we, and you, Jon, and you, Marty, as experts in that field, can continue to do a really great job of educating the public on that. Right.
Well, the good news is right now, the current generation, with the distractions they're dealing with, they don't have to worry too much about getting overtrained. Because, you get overtrained by getting in there, not looking at your phone, socializing. This is the stuff that allows you to get deep enough into a groove where you can actually do that damage.
That's it. Yeah. Real Deal Prime pops in the comments there saying, you have to shock the muscle. There's no question about that. And you got to change it up. And as Jon said, take a random surprise day off. I got to be honest, I've never considered that. I'm going to look at that, taking a random surprise day, because I think it's going to mess with my head mentally. But I'm intrigued by that because I want to overcome that.
Well, don't take a day off and roll around with that big peanut butter cup.
That's no. But I mean to take boys. I've purposely ignored it since we've joked about it last week for a few days. But no, yeah. I just like the idea of saying to myself, take this day off right now. Yeah. And then, because I don't work that way, John, right? So for me to then say, okay, I'm going to do that, it's going to be, Marty, it's going to be a mental struggle for me.
100%. Marty, what do you got to say to that?
No, it's a mental struggle for myself as well.
Yeah, well, I got the ticket whenever I got. Now I'll give you a good little piece that'll help. That you probably know this, but most people who are listening probably don't. So sorry to interrupt, Marty.
Yeah,
you good?
Yeah, man. So Keith, here's what you do for all of you guys listening. If you're like, and I fall into the same boat, I can't just take a random day off. It's, of course, I'm going to take that day off, but I have to plan another activity that I want to do into that space because I want to train. I don't want to take something away I want. So like last time it was a random day off. I said, you know what? I know that I need to take tomorrow off. So I'm going to go for a nice walk around the lake in the morning. It was a great experience. I came back feeling refreshed. I checked my box. I showed up. I just showed up for something a little different.
Yeah. There you go. Sarvina jumping into the comments here, and Sarvina says, "John, you're giving me Undertaker vibe." And Marty, hit that horn for us.
What's up, man? Where's my buttons, man? Come on, give me a button, man. I need a button.
We got to get John some buttons for his.
We got to get John a button, man. We'll get him a button.
Robert Clark jumping into the vertical stream. The elder is speaking. Yes, facts never let your body Plato. The more rest, the bigger you get. Very, very true. Yes. Get that rest in, guys. And today's my Wednesday. If Marty's been around me long enough to know, Wednesday's my rest and recovery day. I went for a walk this morning. I'll do some yoga today, and then for the most part, I spend my day mentally just refreshing. For Wednesday's like a mini weekend for me. And I, John, I know we talk about every day being the same, and they are every day the same for me, but mentally it's like, okay, Wednesday's midday, Monday I go super hard, Tuesday super hard, Thursday super hard, Friday super hard, Saturday hard, Wednesday, Sunday are days in my head that I recognize are days I can go somewhat a little bit lighter mentally, physically. It's how I keep myself rolling here. So Sarvita popping in here with sorry, John. Yes. Not Sarvita, you're not sorry. We know you're not sorry. But all fun aside. Hey, 18 minutes after the hour, if you guys are tuning into the show this morning, this is the morning show with Mornings in the Lab with Keith, CMartyFit, Jon Andersen, joining you guys every single morning, 8 o'clock Eastern time, for a way to get you guys going, a way to ignore the snooze clock, a way to get your alarm clock rolling. Today, we're going to get into Jon Andersen's story. And if we have some time, we're going to get into what's going on inside the Business Athlete Performance Lab. And Jimmy, before I get into the accountability check-in in a few moments, boys, I made a post this morning. I dropped it on LinkedIn and Threads, and I was inspired by what's been happening in the news in the last week. And it relates to America's favorite grandpa. And no, not Jon Andersen. Snoop Dogg. Snoop has done an incredible job of being the most authentic human being. If you think about where Snoop started, America's cannabis smoking gangster rapper, now holding the Olympic torch in the Olympics as a grandpa, dancing with his grandkids, hanging out, and all of the world and all America loves him. And you know what I love about that, John and Marty? Is Snoop is the absolute unapologetic.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I was inspired by that. And then, I watched an awesome 12-minute clip last night with, as Marty knows, I'm a huge Marshall Mathers fan, huge Eminem fan, my demo. John, yours too, actually, in many ways. I'm not sure if you're a fan of him, but he dropped a clip last night where he actually interviews his old self. So they did an AI-generated Slim Shady. So Slim Shady sits down with Marshall Mathers, and they did an interview together. And it was inspiring too, because it just reminded me of being authentic. And I just dropped a post this morning on LinkedIn, and I invite you guys to check it out. I invite you guys, if you're listening to it, just, if the message I want to give anybody tuning in today is just be yourself. Like, I've struggled sometimes, gentlemen, so people think that I've always been myself, and yes, I am myself. But when you look at a guy like Snoop, he really should encourage all of you to continue being who you are and not who you think the world wants you to be.
I love that.
Yeah, that's the pathway to happiness right there, man. Love me or hate me for who I am. You know, not for what you want me to be. I'm never going to be that.
And I bring it up, John, because I know we're going to get into your story today, and I know some of the things you're probably going to share. There's going to be some things that might be uncomfortable, and some people might be listening going, oh, I may be struggling with that, but I don't know how to I don't know really how to converse about it or bring it out or so forth. And it just comes back to that whole thing of be yourself. Like, it's okay to be, because we all have our skeletons. We all have challenges. We all have issues. We all have things we've gone through. And that's what I love back to Snoop or back to Marshall Mathers. And if you think of the artists in the world that we all love, aren't they just so damn honest? I know, John, we've joked that you're born on Elvis's birthday, and I don't want to date us both, but there's another artist that we grew up with, John, who was unapologetically himself.
And the common denominator to all of, especially these artists we're talking about, go back to the beginning of their existence, that unapologetic self in the beginning, they were, nobody was giving them support for that. They had to fight through being themselves because everybody was trying to push them down. They were stepping outside the norm. Nobody understood what they were doing, and they kept doing it because they were true to themselves. Once you get through that, that's where the real rewards come. And these people we're talking about, they all went through really, really difficult, front chunks of their lives to get where they are now.
Yeah. Well, John, and I will confess, and I'll be vulnerable. I can relate to that. Yeah. Many years of my life, I'm like, okay, I guess because I'm this business leader, entrepreneur, CEO guy, I should be a certain way. Yet I'm like, no, I actually feel like I'm more like an artist. I feel like I relate more to Snoop and Eminem and Jay-Z more than I relate to Jamie Dimon, the head of Morgan Stanley, or other entrepreneurs or business leaders. And yeah, I consider myself a business leader, but so is Marshall Mathers and so is Snoop Dogg, right? But anybody tuning in right now, like, you can be both. You can be both, nation. But I'm telling you, like, I am. To be empowered to be yourself, and John especially, and Marty, if I can offer you any advice, or anybody who's in their 30s right now listening to the show, as the old guy on the show with Johnny, I'm giving you something to consider. Stick your middle finger up at the rest of the world and look in the mirror and be you. And I'm going to tell you, man, the world's going to love you more for being you than if you try to not be you, because the world's going to figure you out really quickly.
Here's a saying, a mantra that I've used along the way. And it's not mine, so I'm not trying to claim, that this is my original brainchild statement. But what you've got to do is this. You've got to realize that there's rules and there's laws.
Yeah.
Break the rules. Don't break the laws. You'll end up in a clink. Break the rules. You don't go to jail for breaking the rules of society. The rules of society are trying to hold you in that little place like everybody else. So break the rules. The consequences, they're going to sting a little bit, but keep in mind, that's the stuff you got to get through. To be unapologetically yourself, you're going to break some rules, period. End story.
And life is better on this side too.
Yes.
Life is much better when you're happy, doing what you want to do, being yourself, and sticking the finger up to those people who have something to say against it.
Well, and that's the role of being a mentor, nation. And that's the role of being a leader. It's being comfortable with your own skin, and then showing others that are having that curiosity or wanting to move to being comfortable in their own skin but don't know how to do it. So they look at somebody like Marshall or like Snoop or like John or myself or Marty, and they go, okay, well, if they're doing it, I'm gonna step outside a little bit and do it. I saw yesterday on LinkedIn, guys. Somebody, what's shaking So Young, big fan of So Young Park. Somebody I've connected with recently on LinkedIn. She was like, hey, I'm nervous about making a video, But then she kept seeing me do it, seeing some other people do it. And I'm like, no, just do it, man. You're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. You know what? She did it. Right. And that's the role that we have as mentors or people that are trying to encourage others to step outside. And I really believe when I wake up every single day in my demographic, Anderson, that's my responsibility to sit down in front of guys like Marty and say, hey, Marty, here's what's happening to me. Here's what's not happened to me. Learn from my mistakes or learn from, what I've gone through. Right.
100%. So 100%. It's something you were saying a minute ago, which is literally one of the things I hang my hat on. You kept mentioning story.
Yeah.
Well, everybody has a story. And the question is, does your story tell you that the challenges in your life made you this way and this is why you're not what you want? Or is the story in your life, like for me, my story is, thank God I had all those issues in the beginning of my existence.
Yes.
Because without those, I wouldn't be who I am today. Now, a lot of people, oh my God, yeah, I'm stuck working at 7-Eleven because I have dyslexia and I just couldn't. Stop it. Stop it. You can turn that around. You can flip that script today. You know, thank God these challenges hit me right in the chin, because it allowed me to get better, which allowed me to get more of what I want, which allowed me to get further down my path. So ask yourself a question. What is your story? Is your story taking you off the hook, or is your story actually the reason you are in pursuit of what it is that you truly want to do?
Absolutely. And you know what, gents? I'm excited right now because So Young Park is here. And girl, I'm so proud of you, and I'm so excited to have you here on the show this morning. It makes me feel so good that you're here, but it makes me really feel good as a human being that you felt inspired enough to get behind your camera yesterday and get up from behind it and share yourself, because that's what we want to see, So Young. So I appreciate you. I really appreciate you. I appreciate you jumping in, and I appreciate your courage to be yourself, and I cannot encourage you enough to continue being yourself. Mario DeSantis joins us from the UK. Yes, what you see is what you get. That is absolutely the truth here. And what do we got here? We got Imam joining us. I'm sorry, Inam. He's a regular viewer as well. Hey, Keith and Marty and Sir John. Once again, thanks for the motivations you people give us through podcasts. At the end of every day, I think of giving up, but the podcast boosts me up for another day. That's awesome, man. We are doing our job, and I'm really grateful that you're taking some time out of your day to hang out with us.
Yes.
Love to hear that.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff.
We do not take, I know it's goofy, right? Because we sit here and talk to you guys, but I don't take these responsibilities lightly. I get up in the morning, I'm like, okay, there's people waiting in the room. There's people wanting to hear from us. So, we take the words we say and we take the motivation we deliver to you guys very, very much responsibly. So jumping into the lab here with myself, CMartyFit, Jon Andersen. Jimmy, we are going to tune into, I think, the accountability check-in here. We are going to, and we got So Young Park jumping in. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate you as well. Thank you so much. That is exceptional. So listen, hey, Marty, the guy with the red headphones, you got a neighbor tuning in.
Hey, neighbor. What's up, neighbor?
Did you know you got a neighbor tuning in right now, or did you tell the guy?
I have no idea what neighbor it is, but hey, neighbor.
Johnny, Marty's influencing the stats today. He's like, hey, he walked around the neighborhood today. He's like, hey, I got a show coming up in a half an hour. Tune into it.
I can't read what the name is. It looks like it's the names of a foreign language, like maybe.
Yeah, I don't know what it says either, and I'm not going to attempt to hear what it says either. So, Jimmy, let's head on over to the accountability check-in part of the show here, where I'm going to do this. There we go. John, it's time to go to the restroom, my friend.
Take a leak. Here we go.
Oh, nation, be yourself. That's what I want to tell you today. Damn it, just be yourself. Most importantly, though, you ever feel like you're running on empty? But the guilt of slowing down just stops you. Because I can tell you, I get it. Man, I've been there. The pressure to keep going is real. It is absolutely real. We push past our limits until we're exhausted. We're unfulfilled. But waiting for burnout is what? When you wait for burnout, it's being reactive. You've already lost. And when you're reacting, you've absolutely already lost. So remember this, nation. If you push yourself today, if you push yourself to the point of intense frustration, where your stress becomes overwhelming, where your heart or your health starts to suffer, all the hard work you're putting in is going to mean nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing. You're not going to get to enjoy the fruits of that labor. You're not going to get to enjoy the results of all the hard work. So I invite you to take a step back. Take a moment, breathe, look in your own mirror, take care of you. And I'm not telling you to do it. I'm encouraging you to give yourself permission to do it. But what you need to do is you just need to make the choice. Put yourself first. Put yourself first. The magic will happen. That's your accountability check-in today, nation. Get after it. Get on it. And once I find my mouse to bring everybody back on screen here, we're going to be in good shape. There we go. All right. Marty and John. Marty's off getting his coffee refreshed. John's up here on the stage. Thank you. You are inspiring as well. Appreciate you jumping into the show here this morning. And and thank you, Jimmy. That's Masaki. Masaki Higashi is joining us from, I'm going to think that maybe, well, I'm not even going to pretend to know where that's from. John, I don't want to be disrespectful, but that's Masaki Higashi joining us, and I appreciate your comments here on the show this morning. Masaki, that's very, very kind of you. Let's see here. We got anything on the horizontal stream? No, nothing there yet. Again, if you're tuning into the show, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, like us, share it with your friends, and tune into us every single day here at 8 o'clock Eastern time. We get into conversations around accountability, conversations to get you guys going, conversations to get your day moving along the way here. So we got a poll in the feeds here today, Nation. Before we get into the conversation with Jon Andersen, we got a poll of and it relates to my accountability check, and I'm going to throw the question to you, John, and throw the question to you, Marty. But you said it, John, here a couple moments ago, but let's just kind of maybe go through it again for those that are just tuning in. When do you realize you need a break? Is it because you're constantly tired? Is it because you're feeling overwhelmed? Is it because you have a loss of motivation?
It's a combination of things. I mean, granted, for me, I've been doing this. I've been doing this a long time. I've been lifting weights longer than Marty's been alive. That puts it in perspective.
There it is.
Anyway, so I would say to make it simple, so that those of you can take something away from this. So when you need a break, you're going to find things like, if you're don't want to go. A lot of you don't want to go anyway. So let's put that, if you don't want to go ever, then let's eliminate that one. The next one would be if you start to find that you have a loss of appetite or you're having trouble sleeping. These are signals that the body's saying, hey, I need to catch up. Slow down, dude. It doesn't mean that that you got to, go on a Netflix binge and eat poorly. It just means that you need to take the time that you normally train and do something that's not resistance training oriented. Like I like to go for walks. I do because I need that mental, dump, I call it, because the brain gives me all sorts of wonderful chemicals once I break a sweat. But you need to let those muscles recover. So no picking up heavy stuff, no resistance training. And you'll be pretty crazy one day, and you'll be like the next day you go back like, man, I feel good. And that would be the last thing is if you go to the gym and you just like, man, you're having a hard time warming up. You're just having a hard time finding that spot. The body needs to rest.
Yeah. Isn't that true? And it's funny. It's again, I think that's I've had to learn how to do that, John. I've had to learn how to accept holding back, Marty, so I can go harder tomorrow. Like I've had to learn how to do that, where I'm like, okay, I'm feeling tired. If I know that if I pause right now, I'm going to have a better training session tomorrow. I've had to learn that. And
what you got to do with that one, this is one of my tactics for sure, because I want to train. I just remind myself, okay, if I train today, this is how I'm going to feel. If I don't train today, I'm going to feel amazing the following day. So I'm chasing, I'm a feeling chaser when it comes to my training. I'm chasing a feeling. And I know that if I, try to recreate that feeling when the body's not ready, I'm not going to get that feeling.
There you go. Masaki, how do we know the pronunciation of your name? Well, I think we have some AI tools that might help us pronounce and say things. So Masaki, we pulled out the old technology this morning that we could welcome you to the lab here in our multilingual show. But Marty, I think it's this time in the show, my friend. You and I need to pull out the clipboards. We need to pull out the pens. We need to pull out the old interview boards. And I think we need to put this young man, we'll call him a young man. I think we'll put the young man on stage and we got he's got.
All right, John, you ready?
We're going to lean into Jon Andersen, the Jon Andersen story. And I think we're going to dig into some pretty juicy stuff. So Marty, my friend, why don't you kick it off, pal?
So I know you did wrestling, did some bodybuilding, did some lifting competitions. What else have you done? You're 52, so I'm sure you have a list of things. I know you had the gym business as well. So if you could just run through everything you've done and what you currently do.
Sure. So I'll just kind of randomly
not on the show.
Yeah. So we'll kind of so you hit the head in terms of athletics. I was first pro strongman. Then I was a pro wrestler, and then a pro bodybuilder. Obviously I've had multiple businesses along the way. I created and sold my first business in my mid-20s. So I went to college. I have a major in theology, minor in philosophy, but I had zero intention of getting a job when I was done. I knew that I wanted to do things my way. I knew I wanted to pursue my weightlifting. Didn't really know how I was going to monetize it, but that's a whole different story. So there's kind of and currently, obviously I've got a few businesses that I have, and I love to coach. I love to help people recognize and attain their potential that they didn't even know was possible. So then we'll just throw some fun random stuff out. So I've actually, not many Americans can say this, but I've actually been to North Korea, not South, North. We had a wrestling show that was called Wrestling for Peace. So the trip to North Korea was pretty nuts, man. It was crazy, I
can believe it.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. It was like, let me set a quick stage. So normally you walk out behind the curtain in a wrestling show and you got 15, 20,000 people going bananas, right? And it's movement and colors and signs. It's just like this, right? North Korea, man, you walk out and it's just, nobody says a word and everybody's got a blue shirt on. It's literally, it was almost like, it was the weirdest thing, almost like tripping out. And they all wear a little pin of their leader. And funny enough, they had no idea what wrestling was because they're locked off from the rest of the world. Like, wow. Yeah, like we were, goodness, we had some pretty good matches and they just didn't know what was happening, but it was pretty heavy. I mean, we got to the ring and we had to immediately, normally we're trained to face the hard camera. Where's the hard camera? We know where we want to face the hard camera because it's a show. Okay. Well, in this one, we had to basically remember to turn to our left and acknowledge all of the powers that be that were in these humongous chairs, like a chair back that was like 9 feet tall, and a little North Korean, some sort of a politicians or whatever you want to call them. I don't know. But so that was a pretty crazy experience. But I think what is really most important to talk about with my story is that, yes, so you see all this stuff that I've done. I've, been to a pro level, internationally recognized in 3 different sports. I've been an entrepreneur from the jump, many successful businesses. I've owned a gym, clothing line. That's something I love to do. But my story is very different than most. Most people, they come out of college, they get a job, and they spend 40 years doing something that may or may not interest them, with the idea that they're creating a plan to retire, to get away from what they've been doing for the last 40 years. I wanted nothing to do with that. Well, my story, thank God I had the challenges that I had. I was really difficult time learning, and my brothers were smart. I mean, like smart. I don't know, something got malaligned with me when it came to some of the basic stuff, but again, now that, we're older, now that my brothers will also say, God, I envy you for your ability to do this, that, and the other. I mean, my oldest brother actually sent his boy to stay with me for a bit over the summer because he just wanted to expose him to the type of behavior patterns that I had developed, So anyway, really difficult time reading. For sure, I've self-diagnosis. I mean, dyslexia. I can be reading something and the word might be W-A-S, and I'm going to see SAW, S-A-W. That thing just flips and it'll do it like this, and I can see it happening. So dyslexia, I mean, granted, we had the ADD guy on and he started listing off the issues. If you have any of these, shit, I checked just about all those boxes.
Yeah, and same here.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of athletes, they, and even better for me, again, self-diagnosis of OCD, the doing things over and over and over is extraordinarily comfortable to me. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it can get a hold of me, man. There's been periods in my life where, I'll have to turn off a light switch just right. And I might have to do that 30 times where I can walk away from it. Now, granted, this was when I was younger and I realized, okay, this thing can really help me or this thing can really hurt me, because I was fat. I was, under what I say, I was really late in development in terms of puberty. I didn't grow hair in my nuts till I was 17. Yeah, that's crazy shit. So let's take that topic. So most kids are going through puberty in junior high, right? Well, that wasn't me, clearly. So by the time you get to high school, pretty much everybody's gone through puberty. Unfortunately, that wasn't me either. So imagine this. Now, I'm going to take my pants literally off for everybody to understand what the type of stuff. Now, this is a classic example of the mental strain that I had to stomach, but also allowed me to be resilient. And this situation right here, goodness, it was brutal. So basically freshman football, where I went to high school, there was tons of football was big. So there was a varsity team of 50, a JV team of 50, and there was 2 freshman teams, A and a B. So we're talking 200 kids almost, 180 kids. Back in those days when the coach said everybody take a shower, you had to do it. Today, if a coach said that, he'd probably go to jail.
Yeah. Story.
So I'm thinking to myself, holy shite, please tell me I'm not the only one, because there's kids I don't know coming in from other middle schools. I don't know everyone, right? I'm thinking, just let there be one other guy like me that doesn't have a single hair on his Johnson, And so anyway,
yes,
I got nothing to do but to take my clothes off, walk out of the locker room. And there I am walking around just staring at people's penises, looking for somebody that doesn't have any hair like me, which made the whole situation worse, right? And so we're talking, goodness, you can imagine what happened. This is back in the day when bullying wasn't a thing. You got seniors barking like a dog at me.
Yes.
It was like, and it was like, I remember like just burning in shame. You
were looking to relate, but instead you were being chastised.
Yeah. I wasn't getting a lot of, and so what did I do? I basically went to the coach's office, pretending I needed a towel, thinking that I would get some sort of understanding there, right? Open up the coach's door. There I am. I mean, of course, I don't blame the coach. Goodness gracious. I should have blamed the 3 of them that were in there. They're not used to seeing what they saw when I opened the door. A little pudgy kid without a single hair on his, all they could do, covering their mouths not to let me see them laugh, and I get it. So what I'm getting at is that this situation, and this just set off a series of events. Now, this is first day of high school. Everybody knows, walking down the hall was a different experience. And it wasn't just, this was just a one, it's a single situation that kind of just shows the type of stuff that I went through. And it's a blessing. Granted, at the time, no, I was like, I better just change schools. I'm in a fresh start, so it can happen at the next school. No, you just got to stick this out. But it was, getting stacked on the lockers, and I was a puss. I'll be honest. I get stacked on the lockers. I'd start crying like a bitch, and then some poor soul would chase off the bullies and get me down. But at that point, you've already cried. You've got all the heat you're going to need. It was on the bus getting, it wasn't uncommon for somebody to spit in my face, this kind of stuff. But I'm not saying this like a victim. I'm saying this, thank God, because all this stuff, number one, I was told I couldn't from the beginning. So when someone tells me I can't as an adult, I've heard this my whole life. And someone like when I went from pro strongman to pro wrestling, I was 34 years old. They're like, are you crazy? You can't do that. I said, well, you might be right, but I'm going to try. And that way they shut up because I don't argue my position, but I've been told that my whole life. So when someone takes a stand against me or just verbally takes a stand against me, it's not a problem. If anything, I like that because that tells me I'm on the right track. If people understand my goals, I'm slipping. So really what I guess we're getting at in terms of this early part of my life is this. Now, granted, when I was young, I didn't understand this, but as I started to get a little bit older and started to see how the challenges were helping me, I quickly realized that my story, again, everybody has a story. Is your story basically illustrating how you're successful or how you're on your way to success or how you're working towards success because you have those tough situations? Or is your story taking you off the hook for not being in pursuit of your success and what you truly want? Because it's easy. You can say, oh yeah, I could have very easily said, I had all these problems and that's why I never did anything that my heart wanted me to do. And unfortunately, too many people listen to the people that tell them that they can't. They need, it's like even my own mother. I'm a mama's boy to the core. I love her to death. It's so I'm not saying, but she didn't understand what I was doing. And it wasn't until, I became successful at what I was doing that she actually was okay. She started to get it. And, as I'm making all of these changes, I'm sure she's just, I was definitely not the easiest of the sons to watch take the path through life because I was always going uphill. I was always picking something that shouldn't work. And so another thing in your story needs to not have a plan B. There's no plan B in a story. Well, many of you guys have that because this is the way we were raised. I was raised the same way. Well, you need something to fall back on. No, if I'm going to fall, I'm going to fall forward. I'm going to fall on my face. So I'll get up. Even if I literally took a crack at something and it didn't work out and I fell forward, I'm going to get up a few steps beyond where I fell. And if you have a plan B, all that means is whatever energy it took you to create that or think about that, that's energy and thought that you've taken away from plan A. And plan A will work. The question is, can you get up one more time then you fall down?
Yeah.
And if you can commit to this, it's, it's not that it's going to be easy and it may not turn out exactly like you want, but when you're chasing down things that are big and people are telling you can't, even if you're getting close to it, granted, my goals were, I never really reached any of my goals, but I got really deep into the process. And I reached some of my goals, forgive me, but the big ones, the stretch goals, they're stretch goals for a reason, because then the game never stops, and so just remember, your story is key because we all have this thing inside us that tells us that we're lucky or that we're a victim. And especially after COVID, now it's like, what is it? There's a term for it now. It's like people have learned helplessness. It's like people have just learned to be helpless and it's become okay. Kind of like other parts of our society that are okay, that we know that they're not okay, but they've been accepted. And so people do it. And, so that's the thing, guys. You got to remember, start from the beginning, start with your story. Look at all the stuff that whooped your ass. Look at all the stuff that challenged you. Look at all the stuff that you thought was so terrible at the time that didn't kill you. This is the stuff you need to be hanging your hat on and be thankful. So what's going to happen as you start to adapt this mindset, you're not going to see problems. You're going to see challenges. You're not going to see problems. You're going to see obstacles that you can overcome with time and consistency. What were you going to say, Keith?
When I met Marty and I sat down my show with Marty on Live in the Lab back before I met you, John, a number of months ago, I asked Marty, because I know Marty moved out to LA to build a career for himself, and then the pandemic hit and he had to reevaluate. We're going to learn more about that tomorrow. But I asked Marty what his plan B was. He's like, I didn't have one. Because it's like, if I have a plan B, then I'm not going to go after plan A.
Yes.
So I love that when I met him, he's like, well, no, I didn't really have a plan B because all my attention and focus was on that. And it's funny because I've met a number of people in my journey that don't have plan Bs. And I cannot. So to me, the plan B limits you from the audacious goal, which is why I encourage everybody to have an audacious goal. When Elon first stepped out and said, I'm building a company to take people to Mars, we're like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, well, yeah, what's wrong with that? And I feel the same way. It's like when I got on this journey to to create this ultimate morning show. People are like, what? Like, why didn't you go and retire, Bilous? No, I got an audacious goal. We're gonna go live it. We're gonna go do it. Because if you set the goal too small, what kind of fun is that?
Yeah.
Because you set the goal small, you end up with a plan B. So I love that you talked about there was no plan B. It's all in on plan A, and I got to go at it. Right. Yeah. So, Marty.
No, absolutely. What was the what was the shift? What was the catalyst to get that pudgy kid that was getting bullied, that was humiliated? What was the shift to, oh no, I got to turn into a savage now. I got to become a monster. I got to become a beast. I got to attack life. What happened? What made you the Jon Andersen we're talking to right now?
Yeah.
Well, it's a great question. And the funny thing is that so ultimately I started lifting weights because when the school that I grew up, if you're going to play football or these contact sports, you had to lift weights for PE class. And so I had lifted weights from when I was younger, but I'd never really had like a set time. Like, it's real easy to not go into the garage and lift the sand weights that you got in there on a day where you're not feeling right. So, for PE classes, 5 days a week. And so with that consistency and a little direction, because obviously we had programs to work through, I started to make some success in lifting weights, but I didn't really understand it, to be honest. I knew I was getting better, and I knew that I was making progress, which I really enjoyed, but I hadn't actually had that breakthrough moment like, whoa, like you're asking about. And funny enough, it was, the hitting puberty and this actual event that I'm going to explain were pretty close together. So I would say that, hitting puberty was not that was the change, but I think that happening allowed this event to happen. So basically what we did is we did our maxes in the weight class because we needed to know what the max was so we could figure out percentages to work off of there. And so basically we maxed 3 times a year. And it was my junior year. We didn't max in the first one because we're in football. You don't want to take the chance of getting hurt. Football season's over. We maxed. And I was a junior at the time. And I was the second. I was one of 2 kids that squatted 405 at I don't remember if I was 17 yet, 16 or 17, because my birthday is right at that January. Yeah. And so basically all of a sudden I realized like, whoa, this is pretty cool. All of a sudden now I'm like when you're, especially in high school, if you're one of 2 people that did something, your status changes real quick. And it's not like I started getting chicks. That's not what it was about. But I started getting a lot of respect from my peers in lifting weights in the sports. And then I realized pretty quick, like, damn, I think I'm better at lifting these weights than I am the sports I'm lifting the weights for. But at that point, to answer your question, brother, it didn't matter. I had realized that I was good at something. And as soon as I realized I was good at something, it was like, I just want some more. And I just dove in. And so it was like that whole concept of investing time into something and getting something back that felt like it was worth your trade. That was in full effect. And, going back a little further, I had one of the triggers of me wanting to be who I am today was I saw Conan the Barbarian. I saw Arnold Schwarzenegger for the first time. When I was a kid, because of my learning stuff, we didn't have TV. My mom knew if we give this kid a TV, it's going to make it much worse. They took it away.
Oh.
No TV. Yeah. You want to entertain yourself, get on your bike, go climb a tree, go do something, but you're not watching television.
Yeah.
And so when I did see TV, it was amazing. And I remember I saw the movie Conan the Barbarian. And keep in mind, with the limited TV watching I'd never, ever seen a human being look like that. And dude, it was like something in my chest just turned. And this was long before, me starting to lift weights. That's what kind of so basically I had decided deep down that I want to be a big, strong guy. I had no idea what I wanted to do with it. Didn't know how I was going to make money, but I didn't care. I just knew that thing in my chest did this, and I was in pursuit. And so all of a sudden now I've got this thing inside me. And keep in mind, I've been looking for the answers to be a big, strong guy in the bottom of the cookie jar, the ice cream containers. I've been looking at all the wrong places, and I'm not making much progress.
Nope.
And so So then when I finally had that success with weightlifting, it was like everything kind of connected. And all of a sudden that's when I started to, enter into that mode of like, holy shit, I can do what other people can't. And as soon as I started to see that, and when I started developing my work ethic, and then it became kind of predatory. Like if I was going to train with someone, I was going to work you. I was going to work harder than you, period. And I could just go into this mental place and, I was going to beat you up. And it was it was sportsmanlike, it wasn't some sort of a negative thing. It's like, okay, let's get better today. And we're going to get better because I'm going to whoop your butt. And I wouldn't say this to him. I remember there was when I was, I was a freshman or sophomore in college. And at this point I'm pretty stacked. And I remember seeing when I was a freshman, he was a senior in high school and he actually went to play D1 football. And I saw him years later, and he was actually still big and training. And he was like a god when I was a freshman. You know what I mean? And I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to whoop your ass. And it was like in a good, fun loving way. And it was like, at that point, it was like, it was just a challenge to outdo everybody I was training with. And I got to the point, like, I'm senior in college. I'm 260 now. I'm strong. I mean, I can go, I'm just traveling to different gyms and I'm just stacking up weights, looking for some little challenge me, at that point, I was the strongest guy in the gym, so to speak, but I didn't have the confidence to move into the next step, which is what I needed, and one of my training partners said to me, he's like, dude, so listen, everywhere we go, you're the strongest guy. He goes, I'm not. I put in all the work and you're 3 times stronger than me. He goes, if you won't do it for yourself, do it for me. And I was like, son of a bitch, now I got to do this. It's more than he bled with me. So I signed up for my first strongman contest and boom, won my first strongman contest, won to the next one, won my pro card, went to pro nationals, placed high enough to get on the international travel team, and off I went. So, and on that level, keep in mind real quick, as I made that choice, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. It was almost like I was a little kid again. You can't do that. You're not strong enough to do that. Okay. Oh, you might be right. Maybe the strongest guy in the gym is not strong enough to do that, but I'm going to find out. And I was absolutely was.
I was just going to comment and say how it's crazy how sometimes you only have to be right one time. And that one time that you're right can just, send you in another direction and change your life. So it probably seemed like you was getting everything wrong, doing everything wrong before then. But that one decision of sticking with the weight room and getting stronger, it probably just changed your life. And here you are today.
Yeah. And I think going even back a little further than that was the fact that I had to, like when I went so in elementary school, they identified I was slow. So they just, in those days, they didn't give you all the letters and give you treatment. They just said, put them over there, put them in the classroom with the other slow kids. And I was in a classroom with slow kids, like we're talking real slow, like kids that probably were not going to have a normal life. And there was kids like me that were real slow, but we're going to be normal, so to speak. But that was brutal because that was basically called the resource room. But to the student body, it was not called that. And you can imagine what, I'm not going to say the word because it's not very politically correct. It's just not very nice, but it was, I was tagged as, being one of those kids that was not going to have a normal life.
Yeah.
And so I remember telling my mom, I'm going into middle school. I'm like, listen, go to the principal, go to whoever, just get me out of those classes. I will find a way to make it in the normal classes. I work hard. You help me when I need it. So she went to the school, got me in the normal classes. And let me tell you, right then and there, I realized, man, I'm going to have to work twice, maybe 3 times as hard to keep my head above water. And I'd already been working hard, just trying to get out of the resource room. But until you get thrown into that faster moving current, you really don't know what you got to deal with. And as soon as I was in it, I'm like, man, this is not what I'm used to, Homework on the first day.
Yep.
And so I developed this work ethic where I had to do 2-3 times more just to be par. And again, biggest blessing, because that's what allowed me. I took that and I basically applied that to other parts of my life. And that's the stuff right there that allows me to be who I am today. And the habit forming that I had to put into place to be consistent, you know, keeping my head above water. You know, I had to show up every day with everything I was supposed to do. I wasn't one of those kids that could get by not doing one thing. I mean, that was like, that wasn't a little leak in the boat, man. That was like somebody cutting the boat in half. I was sinking real quick if that. So anyway, goes back to what I said in the beginning. What's your story? And your story is so important, because your story is kind of your roadmap. And if your story is leading you to the wrong place, guess what? You're going to end up in the wrong place. Yes. And think of your story as almost like a ship. A ship leaves the harbor and it knows it's going to the next harbor, and it knows where that location is. If it doesn't know where that location is, it just wanders around and never gets anywhere. And so make sure that your story is giving you a destination. You know, you have a destination, your story is going to propel you there, versus, you know, you don't know where you're going and your story is what's holding you back, and you spend your whole life drifting around, never get anything done.
I think for me, John, when you know, this is, I've heard your story a couple times now, and as I'm refreshing upon it again, what inspires me about your story, John, is you owned it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%.
You didn't make, you know, Marty, we often, I don't want to put everybody under a blanket, not often. We hear too many times where people maybe don't want to take responsibilities for their own story, or find excuses to not own their story. Right. And you learned early on in your life that you had to own your story, or you probably weren't going to maybe achieve what you wanted to achieve. And the fact you went to your mom and you're like, I got to get into the normal class, that says a lot about you. You're like, I don't want to be over there. I need to be over here. Because you knew when you made that decision that it was not going to be an easy path.
Yeah, I was ready to make the sacrifice. I was ready to bleed. I was ready to do whatever I had to do. And
why? That's where that's what I'm hung up on. Not hung up on, but that's where I'm really curious. Why? Like what was it the moment in the locker room? Like there was something.
I'll tell you why. Because when we're young, all we want to do is be like everyone else.
Yes.
And then when we get older, we realize, or I realized, holy shit, thank God I'm not like everyone else.
Back to the beginning of the show, right, John? Be yourself. Back to
100%.
Be yourself. Be who you are, not what you think everybody else wants you to be.
Yes, 100%. And it's just one of those things that you got to understand that the world, people, society, what do you want to say? They expect people to be a certain way.
Yes.
And you don't have to be that way. And your story is it's like a roadmap to get you where you want to go. And the majority of people, their story is why they're not getting what they feel like they deserve, why they're not reaching those goals. When all they got to do is flip the script, because their story is always attached to something that somebody did to them or a situation that happened, you know, and those are the things that make you better.
Yeah.
You know, people think, oh my goodness, you know, this is so scary. Well, guess what? If you're listening to this right now, you've got a 100% survival rate. So the odds are you're going to survive again, no matter how bad the shit gets. Excuse my language.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. You've got a 100% survival rate. So you're not going to die. If you're listening to this, clearly you still have your 100%. And so how bad is it going to be?
John, let's lean into that, Marty. Often logic gets ahead of reality. Often illogic thoughts. It's like, this is going to be the worst thing that happened to me. No, you're not going to die. Hold on that thought, nation. You're not going to die. Yes, that lift's going to be hard. Yes, the meeting you're going into right now is going to be really difficult. Yes, you might be struggling with something going on in your head mentally or physically, and I'm not trying to dismiss any of that. But the reality is you're not going to die right now. So maybe there's a way you can find yourself through it. And I'm encouraging you to find yourself through it. Right. So that's really what the message needs to be, is because, you know, You're not going to die right now. Get into the squat rack. Get into the gym. Right?
Yeah.
And
the truth.
It is the truth, because like, oh, it's going to be too hard. It's going to hurt. Yeah, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt.
Well,
hey, Nation, shortly
think
after.
like this. One more thing on that, brother. Think like this. Yeah. We talk about failure, pursuing failure. Well, think of it from the different. If you can pursue failure, you can pursue discomfort. Because there's going to be, they're kind of wrapped together. But I mean, what it comes down to, it's just a simple position of recognizing, hey, A, I'm not going to die. Love that little saying there. And B, on the other side of that pain, the other side of that sacrifice is a slightly better version of me. Because when I get better, I get to have more of what I want.
Yes. Hey, Nation, you're hanging out with myself, Keith Bilous, CMartyFit, Jon Andersen, Mornings in the Lab, here on YouTube, X, Threads, LinkedIn, all over the planet. We get up every single day, 8 o'clock Eastern time, to help you guys achieve your biggest goals, help you guys be accountable to what's next, help you guys get out of bed, eliminate the snooze clock, and move forward throughout your day, to attack the day. And we're sitting down right now with our friend Jon Andersen to learn about his story. Wrestler, bodybuilder, pro strongman, but more importantly, Jon, put those titles aside, a real human being. And I could have easily called you a flawed human being, but we're all flawed, Jon.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So
100%.
when we put, so I don't want to label you as you're the bodybuilder guy. Oh, you're the strongman guy. You're the wrestler guy. No, you're Jon Andersen with fallacies, like Keith Bilous with fallacies, and CMartyFit with fallacies, and it's us owning those and then bringing them to the table and talking about them. So, Jon, you've shared with us journey through the ring, through the stage, and so forth. Let's get into some of the dark moments. Some of the moments where you thought, I'm going to pull it out there, Jon, where you thought you were going to die, where you thought you were like, oh my God, it's dark right now around me. Oh my goodness, the room is dark. And I'm looking outside the other room, Marty, and it's even darker over there. And then, Jon, you're looking at the week ahead and you're going, oh my God, it's even darker over there. I know, friend, there have been dark times in your head. We're the same age. I've had dark periods too, Jon Andersen. Let's get into the dark periods of life, and I want you to share with me, Marty, and Nation, how you got out of those dark periods of life.
Well, I love that question. And me, I always simplify things. And so ultimately, here's the solution, right? And we can talk about the actual dark moments, but let's be honest, we all have them. We're human beings. We make mistakes. And whether we want to admit it or not, we all have these moments. People that say they don't have it are full of it.
I agree.
I spent, as you saw how I spent the first chunk of my life. I woke up, you could say I woke up scared because it was, life was challenging, man. I didn't know if I was, as soon as I got on that bus.
How old were you, Jon? How old were you when you started feeling that way? Feeling scared? 30s?
Probably. No, how long have I been just waking up scared? Oh yeah, shit, man! As soon as social pressure set in, and all of a sudden, went from everybody has a good time playing on the play yard to kids being who they are and start look, oh, you're different, this, that, and the other. So once childhood opened up, I would say probably like a good marker would be usually for people around middle school is when the really shit changes for kids.
Yeah.
Yep. And a lot of times in the tail end of elementary, you're getting a little bit of it, but by the time middle school hits, it's full blown. Well, I was, challenging with reading from the jump. So I was always I was always afraid of, God, is a teacher going to call me to read out loud? I was the guy that if we were going around reading paragraphs, I was counting, so I could figure out which paragraph I had to read so I could practice before it got to me. That was me, and so anyway, call it fear, call it scared, call it what you want. But I used to wake up in this state of mind because the day was filled with a lot of stuff that was really uncomfortable for me. And all I wanted to do was be like everyone else. Thank God I wasn't. Yeah. Anyway, so because I lived, let's call it the first, you could easily argue the first seven, middle school till the end of high school. That's a pretty good chunk of time. Waking up, scared, so to speak. But then once you create that type of a pattern, it doesn't just go away.
No.
That makes sense. And so it went much deeper into my life. It got started to get a little bit less, but here's what I'm getting at. As an adult, 52 years old, I still have a methodology I use to clear this stuff, because sometimes I wake up and it's almost like I'm 12 all over again.
Really?
And I mean, my mind goes into every single problem that's around me and they don't seem solvable. My story is not in my favor at that moment. Granted, I haven't gotten a grip on myself yet. So alarm that goes off to wake me up. 1 minute later, another alarm goes off that tells me, hey, get your shit straight. Run all this stuff out of your mind, because you've overcome all this. It's not true. And that whatever happens, you're going to be okay, because you can bet on you, because that you'll stand up one more time and you fall down. And when you have that confidence, it's really easy to face things head on without having that fear. So in terms of, that's the methodology. To keep it simple, if you wake up in a tough state like I do, have an immediate reminder to trigger your brain to go the other way. And what happens is, after a few months of this, you don't need that second alarm anymore. Now, sometimes I'll actually reset it, because I'm like, damn it, man, my built-in mechanism is misfired. I need some help. And so that right there for me is a game changer, because it puts me in a perspective that I know I should be in right away, versus carrying around all that stuff that really is just, I'm worried about. Keep in mind, we worry about stuff that never even happens. So it lives only in our mind.
We spend so much time as humans worrying about speculation.
Yes. So that's really what it is. In my mind, early in the morning, it's a whole bunch of speculation of things that, I'm not confident with, because I'm not in the right mental space. So that second alarm kicks off, boom, I clear the mechanism. I realize what's going on, and bam, off I go. Now, goodness, the dark places, oh man, I mean, as a kid, they were all the time. And funny enough, I didn't even realize that I had kind of developed a position of just being okay, so to speak, in that scared state, in that darkness, because it was there so much. I was like, I'm just going to learn to exist here, because it was so difficult for me to build myself up into some position of feeling great and happy, and then boom, have it all taken away. I mean, I could get a B on a test, B- on a test, which was for me like getting 100%. And I could walk out in the hall, and somebody, you're walking, somebody kicks one of your legs behind the other, you take a spill, you drop your books. So I'm not going to celebrate that B, because I know at some point something's going to happen that's going to knock me back down to that space where I normally exist. So I'm just going to learn to be okay here. So I spent a good chunk of my life, in those early years, living in kind of a dark space, but accepting that, because I'm just going to stay here. So I'm going to choose to be here. So you can't put me there.
You have dropped a few references, and before I go to that, Marty, what John's actually telling us, you and I talked about this a couple of weeks back, Marty, is this idea of patting ourselves in the back first, and being okay to pat ourselves on the back, right?
Yep.
And what John, you're saying is, when you get up in the morning, you awaken, and then a minute later, you create this awareness through the alarm to pat yourself on the back, to tell yourself that it's okay, to tell yourself that the day is going to be okay, to remind yourself that all the speculation swirling in your head is just that speculation. Because I'll tell you both, I wake up some days with the same anxiety.
Yeah.
And I chase it. I'm like, oh my God. And then
I
gotta slow it down.
Yeah.
I gotta slow down. I gotta pause. Sometimes I go for a walk, Marty, Johnny. But I have to talk to myself. And Nation, I know you're listening right now. You guys are going through some of the same things. I talk to myself. I'm like, okay, pause, be logical, right? Be 50, don't be 10. Okay. And then I gotta talk. I have to have that awareness to talk myself down, John, Marty.
Yes, 100%. And here's another really, really powerful tool. So another part that once that second alarm goes off, or if I'm in a mental space where I'm clearing the mechanism by myself, I'm going to go straight to my desk and I'm going to journal. When I say journal, basically what I'm going to do is I have a very simple formula. Remember, it's simple, baby. I'm going to write down 3 things that I'm grateful for. That's the first thing I'm going to write, because your brain doesn't have the ability to be grateful and stressed out at the same time.
Yep.
So you basically take that, you start writing down things you're grateful for. And you can be in the worst place and you can find some stuff to be grateful for. As soon as you start writing it down, your brain clicks. It can't be stressed out and grateful at the same time. So I write down 3 grateful things. And then the next thing I write is I write 3 more things that I'm positive about for the day. Then I write 2 things, which is basically my purpose. How am I going to behave today to execute the day in a way I'm going to be happy with? So when I go to bed, I lay my head down and say, damn it, you got the job done. And I'm not talking about, I'm saying it's behavior. I want to be positive minded all day. I don't want to have negative self-talk. These are 2 ways I want to behave. Right.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is what am I going to remove? What am I going to purge? What did I do yesterday that I don't want to do today? And by the time I'm done writing this stuff out, and it's basically, it's in the bottom of I have a book I've had these books all the way back to 1993. It's like my external hard drive,
That's when I was born.
So the bottom of my book, about that much is my journaling for the day. The word journaling is sometimes a little overused. I just, whatever you want to call it, just get some stuff on paper that's going to help you get yourself in the right mental space so that you can crush the day.
Well, Jon, I like that. Please don't dismiss that idea of journaling, because a lot of people like that word. A lot of people can hang on to that. And so what I mean by it is that you like simplification. That is simple.
Yeah.
Right. You're saying to somebody, Marty, I loved what he said, is that, your stress can't compete with your gratitude. So when you sit down and you force yourself to be grateful, you're going to remove the stress from your head. That's a great technique, man. I'm a fan of that. Marty.
There's no 2 ways about it. It's the way the brain works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you talked about removing, right?
Yeah.
I have a question about removing. How did you remove the negative people? Right.
Oh.
As you got older.
Yeah.
Right.
Piece of cake, brother. Piece of cake. So think of your world as really it comes down to, it's almost like your brain. Your brain is a garden, and you've got flowers and you got weeds, right? And you can say, this is your brain, this is your life, these are your friends, these are your family members, because unfortunately sometimes this applies to family members too.
Yes.
So you have to identify, what are the flowers in your garden, and you got to water or give attention to those flowers and they will grow. And then you have to identify, what are the weeds, and you don't want to do something bad to the weeds. Don't pull them up. Don't try to kill them. Just don't pay attention to them. Don't water them. And they will just, either they're going to go away by themselves or they're going to choose to die. Yep. Either way, again, keep it simple. So people are going to really quickly, they're going to become a flower or a weed in your world. And then the attention you give them is going to put them in the place they deserve to be.
Yep.
It's exceptional. Hanging out with Jon Andersen, CMartyFit, talking about Jon's story, some of the dark moments, and a tip he just dropped for us. If you're getting out of bed right now, Nation, if you're getting yourself going, because I'm going to tell you something that maybe you can relate to. If you're feeling anxious right now, there's moments I wake up feeling anxious. Jon's dropped the bomb. Sit down. Don't compete with the anxiety. Find a way to put gratitude on paper, or find a way to put gratitude on a digital journal. But don't compete with the anxiety, Nation. Don't compete with the stress. If you're hearing my words right now, think about what makes you grateful. Pause and write that gratitude down. Johnny.
Another thing too, and it's love the tip, but for those of you that are like, okay, what about when I'm having these moments and I don't have a journal, or I don't have something to write on, or maybe I'm driving. Yeah. So the next step is talk it out loud.
Yes.
I am grateful for the fact that my mother is still alive and I still get to have her here, and she's, almost 90 years old. I am grateful that my kids are all happy and healthy and they love me. I am grateful that I've got, my wife is my best friend. You just start saying that shit out loud and you can't help it. You're going to goosebump yourself. And what I mean by that is you're going to your brain is going to start dumping out positive chemicals.
Yes. Yep.
And all of a sudden you're going to, that feeling of, whatever it was that had you so stressed out is going to disappear. You're going to realize, man, when I focus on these things, I feel really good. And all those issues, they just kind of slide away, because remember, most of those issues are not going to happen anyway.
Yep.
Well, and then and then we start telling ourselves the negative stories, and we start going down the negative paths of the stories, and we start when in reality, nation, things are probably going to be okay.
Yeah.
Right. So that meeting you're getting ready for, that you're just stressed out because you're not ready for it, or that meeting you're sitting down with, with your family later, or there's something you're considering that's stressing you out right now, it's more than likely not going to be as bad as the story in your head's telling you right now.
Yep.
I'm telling you, because I've been there. I've been there, nation. I've absolutely been there. Hey, you're hanging out with myself, CMartyFit, Jon Andersen. Continue our story with Jon Andersen. Marty, we should get into this. Let's get into the fit tip of the day here in a moment. So, Jimmy, we're going to put that up here in a quick second. But I want to jump into one thing before we do that, John, because then we're going to wrap the show up here. But John, you've mentioned a couple times. You've mentioned pills. You've mentioned and listen, I want to call this out because there are wrestlers, bodybuilders, folks that have used their bodies, athletes, our audience that have used their bodies to help them get through life, either professionally or personally or so forth. And sometimes we hurt ourselves, and sometimes we need medication to help ourselves through that pain. As comfortable as you are, share that journey with myself and Marty and our audience where, somebody said, "Hey, John, I think you should take this to help you with your pain, and it's going to help you." And those first few moments, it was helping you. But then the hours and the days and the weeks later, you're like, "Oh my God, this is now killing me."
Yeah, well, the majority, I should say, from my experience, what I saw, what happened to me, so that's why I say majority, it was injury-based. So you get hurt, and you go get fixed, and you're given this, this painkiller, and you're supposed to use it for a certain amount of time. But as an athlete, I was always going back to compete sooner than I was supposed to. Yes. So I was using the med to get through. And I start to realize, man, this med actually, to a certain extent, there's a performance enhancer, because when you don't feel the pain, it's much easier to push way deep into the situation. And you're dealing with, stress of all kinds, physical stress, mental stress. And so all of a sudden you're injured, but you've got this mental position, this mental focus, this, you're basically going in feeling pretty good. And then you realize, okay, you're starting to do it because it's helping you. The pain is gone now. You're recovered, but you basically realize that, holy shit, excuse my language. Now I'm taking this pill to feel normal.
Yeah.
I'm not taking this pill to feel good. If I don't take this pill, I feel terrible. And now it's got you. And so it happened to me multiple times, because, I would go through an injury, I would get hooked, and I would fight my way out of it. But some of them were long, man. I mean, there would be different times where, I would be probably the better part of a year, when it should have been a few months. And the problem is you're justifying it. Oh, I need this to go perform at I got a Tokyo Dome show. I got to lift a giant over my head. I can't have pain in my back when I do that, because, if I drop him, I'll lose my contract, whatever was going through my brain. So you take the pills because and it makes perfect sense. And that's in the addiction. See, the addiction has got you at that point, because that little voice is going to convince you it's okay. And here's the brain, the way it works with the brain is that when you're addicted, just the thought of taking that pill is boom, your brain releases, I can't remember what it releases, but what it releases tells you it's okay. Like when it was explained to me, the heroin addict that is waiting for his dealer, right, to come over, and he hears a knock on the door, whatever's released into his brain is so strong that nothing that anybody can say will stop him from taking his drugs, because it's at that moment, everything is okay. And so once that addiction's got you, it's a tough thing to get away from, and it wrecks people's lives. It wrecks relationships. And so for me, again, part of my story, thank God all that difficult stuff happened to me, because I learned how to be disciplined. I learned how to work hard, and I learned to have a lot of confidence in myself, knowing that, yes, I'm going to fall down, but I'm going to get up one more time than I fell. And I was able to kick these drugs every time it happened. But it was, let me tell you, I consider myself a pillar of discipline, and I work at it every day. It's not something I just have. I practice it. And getting off that stuff tested me. I'll tell you, way tested me. I mean, at one point I was actually on Oxycontin, which I don't even know why they released that. That drug is crazy.
Yes.
I remember taking that one for the first time thinking, oh man, this is going to be a rough one to kick. But I had a hard time coming off that one. So one of the things I had to do, and this is one of the things, a method that if any of you guys are having trouble, you may want to do something like this. So, again, I'm a mama's boy. I love my mom. She loves me. She saw the struggles I was going through, and she knew that I had been using these pills after surgery, and I was having a hard time kicking them. So I put myself on front street with her. I said, Mom, I'm having a hard time kicking these things, but I'm going to do it. And I'm going to start whenever it was tomorrow. That I can't remember what it was. It was like, because I'd already messed up for the day. So I put myself on front street with her. So I wasn't just letting myself down. I was letting her down. And that changed it for me. And so if you guys are having trouble getting rid of this stuff, maybe you find someone that you can put yourself on front street with, and you become accountable to not only yourself, but to that person. Because when you're addicted, the accountability to yourself is a tough one. That voice, I'm very accountable to myself when I'm sober, but you get me messed up, and that accountability to myself slips pretty quickly. So that being said, I always offer for anyone who's going through this, if you need some support, jump into my Instagram DM, send me a message. I can't tell you how many times I've had people come and say, hey, this is what's going on. Sometimes you just need to explain to somebody it's happening. It feels better. Sometimes you just need to know that someone understands. And of course, I'm always going to throw back some kind of a motivational phrase, something that we can, you create a mantra in your head. Like, you know what? I'm going to wake up. I'm not going to take pills today, and it's going to suck, but I'm going to be okay. I'm going to do it anyway. And when you get these little things rolling around your head, you start to fight that voice that's telling you to take the pills.
Here's what I love about this conversation, John and Marty. We're going to throw the fit tip here in a second, Jimmy, Johnny. Here's what I love about this is that we started this. So I was inspired. It's funny because it's funny how just some things just come to plan, eh, John, Marty? I didn't know we were going to go here today, John. I knew that we were going to get into kind of the topics of the pills and so forth, but I didn't know we were going to end up here. I knew that when I went to bed last night, I wanted to lean into being the authentic self. I was inspired by Snoop, inspired by Eminem, inspired by being the authentic, don't care what anybody else thinks. You come on stage here today and you share your story. You have 3 beautiful girls. You're a grandfather. You're a wife. You have a mother. They've all heard your story. Yet many of us are so scared to share who we really are. Really who the struggles we've had. So to hear you share it and to know that I know that your daughters have heard this story before, your kid, your grandchildren are going to hear the story. Like, dude, that in itself, MartyFit, takes a lot of freaking courage right there to say, yeah, girls, your dad had some struggles. Yeah, girls, your mom kicked my ass a few times because she knew I had to get my SHIT together.
Yeah.
That's courageous stuff, Jon Andersen.
Well, and it's power.
Because
what it is. It's power.
Because when we stand in front of our kids, we don't want to let them down. No. So for your kids to hear your story and know that, Marty, you're going to be a dad one day. Our kids think of us as superheroes. But the moment that John says to his kids that, yeah, I had some pretty crappy times in life and I wasn't that superhero you thought I was, perhaps, John, you let them down for a moment. But then when they recognize that dad's actually a bigger superhero because he's really human, that is power in itself. Do you see what I'm saying?
100%. And I think when it comes down to it, when you own what's going on and you're honest about what's happened to you, but keep in mind, you coupled my story. I've had all this stuff happen to me, but it's good. And I know that I'm going to stand up one more time that I fall down. And because all of these challenges are helping me be a better man. Yeah. That's why it's okay. If I was, let's just say the flip side is that, like unfortunately many athletes that they get some sort of addiction to a drug and it wrecks their lives completely. Yeah. Well, guess what? Sharing this story, about a drug wrecking my life, and still being in a wrecked life would not be such a great thing to share, you know? And so, but keep in mind, you have to share what's going on with you. So what I'm getting at is that when you recognize that you have the power to continue to move forward, you also have the power to just shed all the layers and be vulnerable, because it doesn't matter what's happening to you right now, because you know you're going to stand up one more time. This is not the end. This is just one more step in the path. So on that level, I guess the power here is to be vulnerable is much easier when you know you've got the confidence to keep going. And I think that's part of it, is that people, they're afraid to kind of make themselves vulnerable because they're also afraid to continue to push.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Nation, we're hanging out with Jon Andersen. We've had a wonderful chat with Jon for the last hour about his story. And, you know, Jon sits here in the chair every morning with us, 8 o'clock Eastern time. So I know we're going to hear more of it. But at this point in the show, as we wrap it up, we're going to bring Marty on for the fit tip of the day. And then we're going to wrap up the conversation today with Jon. And we'll continue with it over the days and weeks to learn more about what keeps Jon moving and so forth. And just keep moving life forward. So, and as Jon said, if you're listening to the show right now and you're battling something, you know where to find him. Go knock on his door, you know, and you know, we're all here to help. Come knock on my door, come knock on Marty's door, come knock on Jon's door. If you're relating more to what Jon's saying, you know how to get a hold of him. You know what, if you're relating to what I'm saying, come knock on mine or come knock on Marty. We have all had our journeys, nation. You know, my journey hasn't been perfect. I know Marty's hasn't been perfect. I know Jon's hasn't been perfect. And here's what I know for a fact, if you're listening right now, I know yours isn't perfect either. So even though you're standing here saying it's all perfect, I know right now there's things in your head you're battling. Be vulnerable. Be human. Marty, shall we bring up the old fit tip of the day, my friend? I think it's time to do that before we wrap up here, pal. Let's do this.
Let's get it.
There we go.
All right, we got the fit tip for the day. Let's get into it, all right? In a world where everyone rushes, slowing down can be a game changer. The same goes for your workouts. Time under tension isn't just a fancy term. It's a method that can transform your fitness journey. By focusing on slow, controlled movements, you maximize muscle engagement and growth. It's not about how fast you can lift, but how well you can control the motion. Embrace the slow burn. Feel every muscle fiber working. Don't rush the process. Quality over quantity always. This approach mirrors life. Unless you're in a literal race, it's not about rushing to the finish line, but savoring every step of the journey. Slow down, breathe, and appreciate the small wins. Just like in the gym, life's gains often come with moments when we slow down and truly engage in what we're doing. Remember, success isn't just about speed. It's about staying present and doing things right. Whether it's a workout or a life goal, take your time and make every rep count. That's the fitness tip for today.
Wonderful. That's a great tip, nation. And one thing that Marty said that really hangs on what Jon's been leaning into for the last hour, slow down, breathe, appreciate the small wins. If you're starting your day right now with some anxiety, stop, grab a journal, grab your phone, write down 3 things you're grateful for right now. Those little things those small wins are going to help you with your day.
Yep.
I'm just going to leave you there, nation. Slow down, write down what you're grateful for, and continue on with your day. Gentlemen, what a great show today. Great conversation. Jon, thanks for continuing to open up with us. Thanks for continuing to share your story with our listeners, with our viewers, with myself and Marty. I know I'm thoroughly enjoying continuing to get to know you. I love, and here's what I continue to love about Jon Andersen is that, and we talk about books being judged by their cover, right? And I know you said to me, Keith, and I'm the book always judged, Bilous. I walk into a room, people are always judging me. So that's why the power of these conversations, open up the book, right? Open up the book to say, hey man, I have messed up a lot in my life. I'm just like you, listener. I'm just like you, viewer. I just have this platform right now that I'm encouraging you to help yourself be better as well. So, Jon, thanks for continuing to share your story with us. And Marty, great questions, man. Good stuff getting us going here today. What do you got going on today, Mr. CMartyFit and Mr. Jon Andersen?
It's kind of my rest day. I'm gonna do some slight cardio, and I'm gonna get a good stretch in for about an hour.
Good for you, man. That's awesome.
And I got my podcast tonight. So.
Nice. Biggest fitness podcast on YouTube. Come tune in to CMartyFit at the Fitness Podcast. What do you got going on today, Anderson? Is it a lift day? What do you got going on today, brother?
I'm training back, which is going to be a fun one.
Yeah.
And then the thing I'm looking forward to is it's at nighttime. I always spend some time with the wife. And so we're going to basically go out to the back to the lake, and we're going to paddleboard for a while.
Oh, fun.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Hey, can you get Terry to take a picture for me and Marty and Nation of the big bodybuilder guy on the paddleboard in the middle of the lake?
I'll ask her to do it.
So we can put it on the show tomorrow, because I want to see this little man here with all jacked up on the paddleboard, and I want to see how that looks. I guess I have this visual in my head, and I'm just envisioning there's this this beast in the middle of the lake, and people are like this. What the hell is that out there on the lake?
Definitely will be fun to see.
There you go. All right, Nation, we're going to wrap the show up here today. Myself, I'm going to go back for a walk. I went for a walk this morning, but I'm going to go for another walk this morning. I'm looking for it's damn hot outside here, guys. It's like plus 30 degrees, which in your world, like in the 90s already this morning. It's hot. It's humid.
It's not even that hot here.
If you're into humidity, today's the day in Manitoba where your skin's gonna just flourish here in Manitoba. So I'm gonna go back out for a walk, get some post-production, and I got some meetings later today that I'm really excited about. And Nation, I know we did not get into the lab today. We're gonna continue that discussion throughout the week. We got some exciting things happening in the Business Athlete Performance Lab that I'm continuing, and I'm gonna look forward to sharing more with you guys. But of course, tomorrow we're gonna put our friend CMartyFit on the stage, and we're gonna talk about his journey.
Talk about vulnerable.
Yeah.
I got some stories for you.
Here we go, baby.
That's awesome. So we're all going to continue to get to know Marty and Nation. This week has been really about us connecting with you so that you can connect with us. And I remind you, subscribe to our channel, like our channel, share with your friends. And what we do every single day is to get up to help you guys get your day started. Mornings in the Lab with Keith and friends, CMartyFit, Jon Andersen. Boys, have a great one, guys. I know I'll talk to you guys both throughout the day today. Have an awesome day. Great show, guys. We'll talk to you later, okay?
Talk to you later.
All right, boys. Ciao.